Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel, or if this is your first time here, welcome to my channel and welcome to today's video. So for today's video, I'm going to be sharing the story of how Harris and I found out that we were having twins. I mentioned this in my twin mom Q&A that I posted probably like a week ago at this point. I mentioned how, although a little dramatic and sad, the story and, the experience of us finding out we were having twins was so funny, at least to me. It is something that I will seriously never forget. Bless Harris's heart and his reaction. It was a little dramatic, but I thought that I'd share this story with you guys. I realized that I never did, even when I announced that I was pregnant, all throughout my pregnancy, I never told the story or, told about how we found out we were having twins. So that's all I'm going to be doing today. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. And with that being said, let's just jump right into it. I tried a little something new with my hair today. I tried like waving it and I'm not exactly sure if I like it. So excuse my hair if it looks really ugly today, but I have my coffee right here. It is 9:30 in the morning. The boys just went down for their nap and so it's coffee time for me. So I'll be drinking that throughout this video, but we're just going to jump right into it. So if you guys are new here and you don't know, the pregnancy in general was not planned. It was a surprise pregnancy, but it was a welcome surprise. So, when I found out that I was pregnant and I told Harris I was pregnant, he was in shock, as, a lot of people were. And so I decided to take a week and spend that week at my grandma's house, who at the time lived in Southampton. So I spent the week in Southampton, and throughout that week, Harris really took some time to let this all sink in and came to terms with it. Was like, okay, we're going to be having a baby. So at the end of my week stay at my grandma's house, we had our first doctor's appointment, which was supposed to be our confirmation appointment for this pregnancy. So Harris came out to Southampton, picked me up, and we came back to Nassau County and we went to my doctor's appointment. And I walked into the office and a familiar face greeted me, a friend from high school. Her mom actually was the ultrasound tech at the doctor's office that I was going to be going to, which was super exciting for me, especially because my mom lives in Florida and she lived in Florida all throughout my pregnancy. So I did not have her there to come to a lot of the appointments with me. I knew that I was going to be going to a lot of the appointments alone since Harris, works 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And so it was really nice to know that I was going to have a familiar, warm face at the doctor's office every time that I went. So, of course, she greeted us. We did the normal catching up since I had not seen her since like junior, senior year of high school. It had been quite some time. So we did the normal catching up. Was this planned? Was this a surprise? I told her it was a surprise, all that kind of stuff. And so she took us back to the room where the ultrasound was going to be done. And she, of course, left the room so that I could undress. I seriously had no idea what to expect at all. I had no idea that they went internally or anything like that. But she came back in and we began the ultrasound. And at that time, I thought I was around like 6 or 7 weeks pregnant. I kind of tried to do the math in my head, but I didn't really know exactly. And they usually say that they did these confirmation appointments around 7 weeks since that's when they could really see something. But once she started the ultrasound, she basically told me that I probably was 2 weeks earlier than I thought I was. I probably was around like the 5-week mark since she couldn't see a whole lot. Now at my office, which I know a lot of offices don't do this just in case there is something on the screen that the mother shouldn't see right away. A lot of the times they don't show you the screen, but at my office there was like a big TV on the wall in front of us. So I was like laying on the table and the TV was in front of me. Harris was sitting next to me in a chair and the TV was there and we could see what was going on live. And so I, of course, had no idea what I was looking at. I'd never been pregnant before, got an ultrasound. Of course you see ultrasound pictures, but when the baby is more developed, it's easier to tell what is what, obviously. Even when you're like 8 weeks along, you could tell that there's something in there, but for me, I wasn't seeing anything. So I did get a little bit nervous, but she reassured me and just said, you're a lot earlier than you think you are, but you definitely are pregnant. And I wish I could remember exactly what she said. I wish I had all of this recorded just to, look back on. But basically she was like, okay, here's the sack. And as you can see, there's 2. And right away, Harris's face dropped. I remember I looked right at him and I had mentioned in the Q&A how I really wasn't that shocked or anything when I found out, since while I was at my grandma's house, I'm sorry guys, I have the window open and you can probably hear the cicadas buzzing outside. It's a beautiful day, so I have the windows open and not my air conditioner on, so please excuse that background noise. But anyway, I mentioned in the Q&A how while I was in Southampton, my grandma had mentioned how she always wanted to be a twin, always wanted to have twins. And so the seed was kind of planted in my mind, like, what if I did have twins? And so when she said it was 2, I was not all that shocked or anything. I kind of looked at Harris to see what his reaction was, and his face went blank. And the first thing he asked were, what are the odds that it's actually 2? And so the ultrasound tech was like, I've been doing this for quite a while, and I can say with confidence that there are 2 sacs there, but because I was so early on, she couldn't see if both sacs were going to like come to fruition, if they were both going to develop. She said she thought she saw yolks in each of them, which meant that there were 2 fertilized sacs in there. But I will actually insert the ultrasound so you guys can see what I'm talking about. But they were like little empty black holes. There was nothing in them for you to be able to tell if there was actually a baby there. So she of course mentioned, you know, it could just be one, or one could be a blood clot, or one could not, you know, develop fully. You have to come back in a week for us to be able to check exactly if these are 2 viable progressing sacs. So at that point, I was supposed to meet with the doctor, but because I was so early, there really was no point for me to meet with the doctor, so I had to go back up and make another appointment for the following week to have a confirmation appointment. And at that point, Harris was so anxious, so nervous. It was such a shock. He seriously was in so much shock that he said he needed to leave the office. He could not stand there for 5 more seconds and make a new appointment with me. He said he needed to walk out of there, that he was getting very overwhelmed. So he actually left the office, left me in there. I know a lot of you guys are gonna think, how mean, that's sad, but if you know Harris, you know he just is like an anxious person. So I wasn't really like offended about him wanting to leave. I was like, whatever, leave. So I made the second appointment and I went outside, and when I went outside, our car was gone. So that is when I was like, okay, he literally left me. But he pulled back around. He said he needed to like do a lap, you know, he needed to like get out of there. So he came back around and picked me up, and he just was like, well, we don't know, like we don't really know what the odds are. I don't think we should worry about this for another week. He was like so nervous. When your pregnancy is not planned to begin with, it's a shock to know that you're pregnant, but to then figure out that you're pregnant with twins, that is a whole nother shock. And so we left that appointment. I then texted everyone who I told, which was basically my mom's 3 close friends, I think, and then my grandparents on both sides. And so I had texted all of them that I was pregnant, that there was something in there, but that there was a catch. And then I sent them the ultrasound, and I think my mom guessed it right away. She knew that I was having twins. My friends, they had no idea what they were looking at, so they had no idea what it was, so I had to basically tell them. But it was a shock for everyone. And so we went back a week later. Of course, everything was confirmed. There were, you know, developing fetuses in both of those sacs. And so at that point, Harris then had to come to terms with this whole new idea of us having not only a baby, but having 2 babies. And so it was just such an experience. I seriously will never forget. And to just show you guys how nervous and anxious Harris is as a person, I don't think I ever told you guys this either, but when I went into labor and everything, we didn't really know if I was going into labor, so we went to the hospital not really with the idea in mind that I was actually going to be having the babies. And so once they ran a whole bunch of tests and figured out that I was in labor and my water did break, that was the whole question, whether my water broke or not. My mom and Harris basically came to a decision that he was going to go home for the night. They told us it was going to be a long process, which it wasn't. But they said it was going to be a long process, and so my mom sent Harris home to get some sleep, since she knew our lives were literally going to be turned upside down in the matter of hours and days, you know. And she stayed with me all throughout the night, and so things did progress pretty quickly throughout the night, and I'm so glad that I had my mom there as my support system. She did so amazing. And so when Harris came back the next morning around 7 o'clock in the morning, I was already getting my epidural, and so my mom had left at that point to take a shower and get herself together, and Harris and I fell back asleep. And when we woke up around 10 o'clock, I was in some pain, and so the nurse came back in to check me, and at that point she had us guess what she thought I was, and none of us guessed 10 centimeters, but I was 10 centimeters. And when she basically said I was 10 centimeters dilated and it was time for me to push, Harris made a beeline to the bathroom. He told me that he just had to pee, but my mom and I both believe that he vomited or stressed something, if you catch my gist. I'm so sorry, Harris, I'm sharing this on the internet, but he is literally such an anxious person that they said, okay, it's time to push, and he was like, holy shit, it's time to push, and beeline to the bathroom to, I don't even know what, prepare himself for what he was about to experience. Harris is just such an anxious person, and, you know, bless his soul for it. I love him to death for it. It is seriously, his reactions to all these things are things that I will seriously never forget for the rest of time. Especially his reaction of saying to the ultrasound tech, well, what are the odds that it's actually 2? I was like, Harris, look at the screen. What do you mean? What are the odds? She was like, what are you in numbers, man? But it was really funny. So I realized I never shared this story with you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed the story. I know it wasn't that long, but it was something that I just, you know, really wanted to share since I at least thought it was funny. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, head on down there and subscribe. I appreciate that always. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.